Tell them about getting airplane parts easier.
When we was over in Germany over there, we had P-47s. We had 2 of them on our base there. We finally got the 3rd one, and I was crewing 2 of them. And every once in a while, we'd run out of parts for something. And over at Nuremberg, they had miles of them P-47s just lined up over there, brand new, hadn't never been used. And they was going to cut them up, and they finally did. But we had L5s there at the base where we was at, and so the engineering officer would come up there and say, "Hey, come with me, get your toolbox and throw it in that there L5 out there." So we'd get in this L5 and go up there and we'd land. And we'd be behind the hangars from the control tower. So he'd stop out there and take our toolbox and run over there where one of them airplanes was, go out there and take the part off of it, and then later on he'd come back by there and we'd have the part there. Jump in the airplane, fly 15 miles.
Midnight requisition.
But they had brand new airplanes there, and these we had was in the war before it was over, and we just had to steal parts or get something. You couldn't get anything, but they wasn't supposed to take nothing off of them airplanes. And later on, after I came back, I seen pictures on TV where they'd take a torch and cut them big old engines off and just let them fall on the and they had a thing furnace out there that they'd melt those things down. Brand new airplane. But
Your government at work. My taxes.
Well, anyway, this guy here, you know, I've been down there, the Port Aransas and down those places. They put all the wild hogs and deer and all that junk down on Matagorda Island so the generals or somebody could shoot them. They called it the Sac Hunting Club. And if he was a full colonel or better, you got a deer. You could shoot a deer if you wanted to. It was legal. We had our own man that they designated as a special game warden. He could open the season on something or close the season on the island. He had to do within the sphere of the state, but he could do that. And one time I was down there, I was a big NCO, and they made me stay overnight because I was going to be the officer of the day down there because there was only a few people there. And the only way you got over there was boat. You know, and so we couldn't get there. But anyway, I'm down there, a big tech sergeant, and here they come in, and here we had 2 colonels, and I don't know how many others. They had supposedly made the appointment to be there, but all the special service people that handled that kind of thing was over on the mainland. They took the helicopter and left them overnight, and I'm out there, and they we went out there, and they were going to shoot a deer, and had a big herd of deer, and we got there, and we got them in what they call the follow me jeep, is what the airplanes would follow you around to place the part, and we went out there, and he laid it across the front of the jeep, and the deer was between the ramp and the runway, and shot a deer right there. But we got permission to let them do this. They're colonels, you know. Outside.
There were also alligators on that island.
Well, yes, there was alligators. There was rattlesnakes.
Where is there not alligators?
There were rattlesnakes was the worst thing.
Oh, that would be the worst.
They were down there when we were there. Oh, I got another snake. If you don't, unless somebody else wants to talk here, I get started talking. Anyway, when we were young, later, this age here, well, we tell stories. You don't tell stories to younger people or city kids that's true necessarily.
You can scare them.
They're not lies. We wouldn't tell a lie, you know, stretching the truth. But we'd say, I remember one of the best one I liked was the one about the snake with 4 legs. Well, you know, there's no such thing as that, and we know it, and everybody else knows there's no snake. But we tell these stories that are like that, and we would never say that that's the way it was. We'd heard that there was. And so you could tell it that way, and you always try to embellish it a little bit every time you told the thing. Anyway, but you got to watch when you're telling stories that, because it leaves a little bit of impression in your mind.
Like the dragon?
Kind of like the dragon. But one time I was back on that north pasture. I don't know what I was doing there, coming down towards the well. My friend Virgil had a pond just across the fence over there. And I was coming down through there, probably had a slingshot, shooting the fence posts and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, I heard a commotion over there in the pond. Well, me, I got to find out what's going on over there. And I expected it to be a turtle trying to pull a duck down. That's what I thought. It was just walking and carrying on. Well, I stepped over the fence and I climbed up the dam. I was sneaking through the weeds, looking over, trying to see what's happening out there. And all of a sudden over here on the edge, about 6 foot from me, there's a snake. But the only problem with that snake is it's got feet up on his head. Well, I kind of backed off from there.
About 50 yards again?
About 2 seconds later, I was about 100 yards. I was thinking about now, what did I really see there? I'm not going to go once again. I'm not going to tell Leonard that I saw a snake with 4 legs. We all know there's no such thing. But you talk about this 4-legged snake, and every time it had claws on one, when I hit you, it was a dead, and all that really bad thing. But I slipped up back. I got to find out what this is. Slipped up in another direction there, where I could see him a little further up. And this snake had caught a frog, and he was eating the frog and trying to swallow the frog, and the legs were still.
But his head is.
I never did tell that story to anybody.
This is well.
I tell this day.
That's true. I never told that one before.
I'm living. Tell them about running the radio and being the
Air traffic control.
air traffic controller.
Well, when I was over in Germany,
He
Just
doesn't
had
speak
about-
German, incidentally.
we had 3 radio men. That was radio men, and they operated the tower there. And we'd go up there when our airplanes were flying somewhere, and we'd go up there and play cards up there. And it didn't have much traffic out there anyway, and so everybody was up there playing cards or something. Whoever was closest to the mic, if somebody called in, you just told them which way. It wasn't but 2 ways to land, just one way, one runway. And so they had to send 2 planes to England. Well, to fly across the English Channel, they had to have a radio operator on the airplane. So they took 2 of the 3 radio men, and they flew one of these airplanes over to England. Well, this other one, he got mad because he didn't get to go, and so he got drunk. And they threw him in the brig. And next morning, they got out there, and there was about 6 or 8 airplanes lined up there ready to take off, and nobody in the tower. But nobody in there. And this engineering officer came by and said, "You would operate the tower up there?" I said, "Yeah." But I said, I can get them off, but I can't log all this in on who's flying who and where they're going and all that there and get them off. He said, "I don't care what you do, just get them off." I went up there, got them all, stayed up there, and he said, "I'll have that operator up here tomorrow." Well, the next day he still didn't get out of jail. So I had to go back over and work about 3 days on that up in the tower there. Well, wouldn't you know that they'd send the inspector out there to check on it. They had a light, they called it biscuit light. You could change a green or red light. If somebody didn't have the radio, they'd come by and flip the wings, and you give them a red light if they couldn't land, or green light if you could land. So he told me to give him a green light, and I'd give him a green light. He didn't see it. He was just testing me. he must have knew something. And then he'd tell me, and then he'd say, well, shoot 2 flares up, green ones. I'd get your gun up and shoot the flare. How they couldn't see it. And they flew around, they just found it. And so the next day, this radio operator, they brought him back the next day. And I guess somebody sent in something. The radio operator wasn't too good.
Uncle Leonard had won that war.
This was after the war was over.
Unfortunately, they quit after that. I can see that now.
Guy shooting flares at him. Idiot, didn't you see that light? Yeah, that suit's down there.
They used to sell these little Harper Cubs over there, L4s that they had over there. They'd sell them to you for $100, but you had to fold the wings on them, and then they'd ship them back to New York. And so people buy these airplanes, and you had to fly them to Bremen to ship them out on a ship. And so one day we took C-47 and flew up where it was we went into. But anyway, flew up there and got up there, and they had 4 L4s sitting up there, and the sheep had stepped through the ailerons, had stepped through one up and broke it up there, and well, so they just got duct tape and taped it up. So they had these pilots up there, and they said, well, about short pilots here. So they finally hunted up another one. They was wanting me to fly one of them. I said, I ain't never landed one of them. I thought I could one time, but one time we had a pilot came in with a P-47, and we just had a steel mat runway. It was in sand up there, and they landed this thing. This pilot come in real hot, and he bounced that thing up about 3 times, and the next time he was over in the sand and bogged that thing down out there. We had an old cleat tracks, all we had to pull anything with out there. Got out there, and they was trying to dig the front out of the wheel, and they couldn't get it out, and they just didn't have enough stuff to pull it out. They couldn't get it out of there, and I told them, I said, let me fly it out. I said, I can taxi that thing out here. And he said, well, you gotta watch it, because it ain't about 6 inches there. That prop hit that there sand out there. And I said, well, I believe I can get it out, because so they put 2 guys on the tail of that thing, sitting back there on the tail. Well, that thing's big, wide up here in the front, and it's got a big old 4-blade prop on it. And they pulled the stick back and put the seat belt around it so it would stay tail down. And I got in that thing and cranked that thing up. Finally, it just lifted up off